So today's been kind of crazy for gaming news, and not in a good way. Sony didn't just drop one big piece of news, it dropped two, basically back to back, and each one on its own would have been enough for a whole video. But once you put the two things side by side, they kind of stop being two separate stories and start looking like one very clear statement about where all of this is heading. So let me walk you through what actually got announced and why the combination is the part that really matters. Sony's closing the PlayStation Store on both the PS3 and the Vita, and it's doing it in stages rather than all at once. First to go is the PS3 store in Mexico, Honduras, and Nicaragua, and that happens in August of this year. After that, a wider group of Latin American and Middle Eastern countries loses the PS3 store in late 2026. And then in July of next year, the store closes for both the PS3 and the Vita everywhere else. That's the US, the UK, all the big territories. Once it closes on your console, that's the end of buying anything new on it. But before anyone panics, there are two details here that really matter and are super easy to get twisted. The first is that those earlier 2026 closures only hit the PS3. The Vita store actually hangs on everywhere until that global July 2027 date. So if you are a Vita person, you've got a little bit more runway. The second bigger one is that Sony says anything you've already bought will still be downloadable. So it's not like your library's getting deleted overnight. The games you own you keep for now. What actually ends is your ability to buy anything new on those systems. Okay, so that's the news about the stores, but here's the one I genuinely think is the bigger deal and the reason these two belong in the same video. On the exact same day, Sony also announced it's gonna stop making physical discs for new PlayStation games, starting in January of 2028. After that point, every new PlayStation game is digital. You either buy it through the PlayStation Store or you buy some digital version at a retailer. And this is where it all clicks into place. Preservationists and honestly just a lot of regular players have been making one pretty simple point. When you buy a game digitally, you don't really own it. You're basically renting access, and that access lives or dies on a company deciding to keep it running. The disc was always a backup plan. As long as the physical copy existed somewhere, a store closing wasn't the end of the world. You could still get the game some other way. But if the discs stop being made, and the digital store is the only door in, then your ability to play a game rests entirely on one company choosing to keep a server switched on. And today, Sony did both of those things at once. And if the store news is giving you deja vu, that's because we've already been here. Back in 2021, Sony announced it was closing the PS3, PSP, and Vita stores, and the backlash was massive. Loud enough that Sony actually walked it back, kept the PS3 and Vita stores open, and only went through with closing the PSP one. A U-turn basically bought fans about 5 more years. So this is more or less the same closure people fought off half a decade ago, except this time it's showing up arm in arm with the end of the disc. And from the reporting so far, nobody's really expecting Sony to back down this time. Now in fairness, and this does matter, because it's easy to make this sound like Sony's uniquely evil here, they're really not doing anything the rest of the industry hasn't already done. Nintendo shut down the Wii U and 3DS eShops back in March of 2023. Microsoft recently closed the Xbox 360 store down in July of 2024. Old storefronts and ancient hardware getting switched off is just kinda normal at this point, and Sony's reasoning isn't nonsense either. The official line that the PS3 and Vita can't keep up with modern payment processing standards, and honestly that is believable. The PS3 was made in 2006. I was born in December of 2005, so it's a pretty old console. And the Vita's also from the early 2010s. Keeping the payment systems up to date on old hardware and keeping the servers up costs real money. And for consoles that give them little sales, from a pure business angle, I do get it. And I also want to stay precise here, because it's easy to spin this into a doom spiral and not quite get it right either. Nobody's library is getting wiped. Your purchased games stay downloadable. Discs aren't going anywhere until 2028, and even after that, Sony say they will still sell games in physical stores in some form. Probably a box with a download code inside, though the exact format isn't clear. So this isn't PlayStation is deleting your games, it's more a direction of travel. The worry isn't really the next 12 months, it's about the foreseeable future. And in my opinion, what quietly turns into 10 years down the line where there's no discs left to fall back on, and anything you buy online really isn't yours. And if you want to know why people are taking this so seriously, just look at what happened the last time a big store closed. When Nintendo shut down its eShops, there was this genuine scramble. Fans and archivists racing to buy games before they disappeared, because a huge number of those titles never got re-released anywhere else. One content creator, Gerard Halil, sorry if I butchered the name, actually went and bought every Wii U and 3DS game he could get his hands on. More than 2,000 of them, purely so that a copy would exist and be preserved. The second official access closes, a game can basically vanish unless someone deliberately saves it. And for a lot of digital-only titles, the only thing keeping them alive after this is emulation and the preservation community doing the work the companies won't. And it's not just preservation in the abstract either. Going disc 3 quietly takes away a whole bunch of things we've always kind of taken for granted. A disc is something you own outright. You can finish a game and sell it, you can lend it to a friend, you can buy it used for cheap years later. The entire secondhand ecosystem is is a massive part about how people afford games they otherwise couldn't, and how older games stay in circulation at all, go fully digital, and all of that just stops being a thing. There's no lending a download, no reselling a license, no used game market keeping prices honest. You buy it once from one place at whatever price that one place sets, and that's the only way in. See, here's where I land on it. Taken one at a time, every single one of these moves is defensible. Old stores close, digital is where the market went. Sony's not wrong that most people buy their games digitally now, but when you step back and look at the shape of it, it's hard to ignore. Bit by bit, the industry is removing every version of a game that you can actually own and keep, and swapping it for access that a company holds the keys to. And access is only ever as permanent as that company's willingness to keep maintaining it. We've already watched stores that were supposedly staying open close anyway, so when the same company ends the disc and shuts the old stores down on the same day, I don't think it's paranoid to ask the obvious question. In an all-digital future, what are you actually buying? A game or a temporary key to one? So to bring it home, in a single day, Sony put an expiration date on the PS3 and Vita stores, for real this time, and an expiration on the physical disc itself. Neither one is a catastrophe on its own, but together they're the clearest look we've gotten yet at an all-digital future where the whole industry is walking towards, and all the ownership questions that come riding along with it. So I'd love to know your thoughts. Are you fine going fully digital if the trade-off is never really owning a game again, or is the disc worth fighting for? Let me know down in the comments, and if you got something out of this video, a like and subscribe would be super appreciated, and I'll catch you in the next one.